How does it feel being back?
Good. I had such good memories here. Maybe my happy place can be our happy place?
Who left you all alone down here?
It was just my imagination.
I'm playing a new game with Chauncey.
The scavenger hunt list. That's fun.
Chauncey says you're not allowed to play with us.
Oh.
Because you left him. I need something happy.
Something happy. Ugh. I thought bugs freaked you out.
If I can finish my list, Chauncey will take me on a trip to the place he's from.
Something that hurts.
All right. Imaginary. Now, this is the only review I'm going to be doing of it. Yes, it is going to be a spoiler review because this movie is so bad, and I expected it to be so bad, and I hate being right. So it's only going to be a spoiler one, and it also, I was constantly fighting myself going, no, do a regular, do a non-spoiler one. But then I thought about it, and I went, you know what? No. Because this is so idiotic that no one is going to see it. And even the people that have seen it probably hate it. And I'm like, why? And why? And there's some, legitimately some people out there that did, like this movie. And I'm like, why? Why? And so, as you can tell, I absolutely hated this film. And I'll tell you why. So, this movie is done by Jeff Wadlow. He has directed two of the worst horror films that I've seen in a long, long time. Truth or Dare and Fantasy Island, both of them from Blumhouse. And here he is again doing another film for Blumhouse, and it's another horror film. Now, I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. So already he has 2 strikes on my radar. And if this was the 3rd strike, he's out. I'm done. I'm done with him. I'm done with his movies. I'm done with him as a director. Sorry, but I'm sorry. But here's the thing. I wanted to go into this thinking, I want to give it the benefit of the doubt. No one sets out to make a bad movie unless you're Adam Sandler. But moving on. So, and I thought, imaginary friend, it's happened before, but let's see how this goes. Let's see how this goes. And my God, I hated being right. I knew this was going to be terrible. All right. So, first of all, there is absolutely nothing new to offer here. It is the same things we've seen before. We've seen, something's in the hallway, something, all the jump scare, the classic, the jump scares that we've seen over and over and over again. In every single PG-13 horror film, we have seen all these jump scares before. All we needed was that cat. Was the cat jump scare. That's all we needed. And this movie would have ticked all the boxes and repeat all the PG-13 horror cliches that we've seen before. But oh my God. So the acting is pretty abysmal to the point where I was like, I just don't care for anybody. There's really only one character that I somewhat kind of cared for, and they're gone. They were there through a little bit, and then they set up this character's in a band, and I'm like, oh, that means you're going away. No, we're not going to see him till the end of the film, or not ever. Great, you're the only character I somewhat kind of cared about, and I'm like, yeah, just stop. I'm already done. So. So this is just, it's everything we've seen before. And, there's just so much here. I kept thinking to myself, I'm pretty sure this is gonna happen. Yep, that happened. Like, oh my god, it's just unbelievable. It's like they had the idea, and then when they started filming, they went, "Oh shoot, we don't have a script. Let's just use all this. Let's just do all this stuff." Like, there's even just some just basic filmmaking things that they just mess up. Like, okay, so there's a scene where it is recurring another kid's imaginary story, like imaginary friend's story, and it's implied that the kid cut off his thumb, and they there's like footage, because they introduced like a psychiatrist character that just really had no purpose being there. And she's like, "Oh, I've worked like plenty of these imaginary cases before, and you know, like, oh, I've like here's one of them, and it's a kid, and it's showing footage like, yeah, can you hold up your hand? His hand is in a fist, and yeah, you see blood on his thumb, but the way that they film it makes it look like he's trying to do one of those like finger things you would pull like in elementary school, like the whole like you're missing you're pulling your finger off, or you're like sticking your entire like finger up your nose, or like something like that, like one of those tricks, like those like finger tricks you would pull like in elementary school. It looks like he's doing that. It looks like he's bending his thumb, and they just put like a little like drop of blood like on like the knuckle part of his thumb, and like, oh my god, like I can clearly see that, like anyone can see that. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, yeah, like he's trying to do a magic trick, and I'm like, oh my god, this can't get worse. It does. So they imply that this entity is imaginary, but it's not. It's like it's a, from what I can gather, because they don't really explain it, it is like a shape-shifting entity or demon that lives in this like world where it can go into like anybody's like, I guess, mind. They don't explain anything. It's like they throw everything. It honestly feels like they pulled a page out of, there was a Ghostbuster, the real Ghostbusters episode where it was the Boogeyman, where you find out that the Boogeyman, it actually lives in a world, like a different dimension, where it's all just like closet doors, and it can just go to just random closets all at once. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. This kind of pulls that. But it goes like, oh, but it's like an entity that can take on your greatest fear. I'm like, oh, I see where this is going. Very Pennywise. But if kids were too young to go see it, they have this. And it's like wow. And I'll even say this. The third act, they just say, hey, this entity's world, let's not make something new. Let's not make something more creative. Let's just make this amalgamation of Beetlejuice and Labyrinth. To the point where like when they enter, there's like in Beetlejuice, when they enter, there's like the like twisted hallway with all the doors. That's in here. And also, like, they go over, they like see a ledge, and they look on the ledge, and it's just it's like a giant MC Escher painting, like in Labyrinth. And I'm like, you have no shame. Like, why? And I'll even give it points. There are some scares that are set up kind of cool, but then they lead to a cheap jump scare. And also, the entity's full form looks so cheap. It's something you see from a Spirit Halloween store. But actually, I shouldn't diss Spirit Halloween, because they have some cool stuff there. They may be cheap, but they're pretty cool. This looks like garbage. They don't know what they're doing. It either looks like a giant, like, creepy bear that you see at like a cheap haunted house, or it's like a bug-like spider thing, and it makes no sense. So I feel like they had multiple ideas and just didn't know what they wanted to do. They didn't know if they wanted it to be something more like Pennywise. They didn't know if it wanted to be more like Poltergeist or like anything else. They just didn't know what they wanted to do. It's like they had the idea and they just went, oh, we don't know. We don't have a story. We don't have a script. We don't have any idea what we're going to do. So let's just steal everything from all these other horror films that actually worked, like It, like Beetlejuice, like Labyrinth, and let's just put that all together and no one would notice. Like, really, it's like if you wanted to do your own version of like a Disney princess movie. So in order to avoid a copyright strike or a copyright infringement, you changed a princess's name to something else, but it sounds very similar. Like there's a Titanic movie that instead of Cruella de Vil, they then change it to Corinthia. And like, really? You know, I can tell what that is. I can tell. It's like that. It's like, oh, let's just put them all together and just change the name slightly. And that'll avoid a lawsuit. It's like, there's no shame. And the worst part of it is that, you know, we've seen this multiple times. I don't know how many times we need to see the same PG-13 stupid movie over and over again. We've seen it multiple times. We don't need it anymore. And I don't understand why they keep making it. Because people will flock out to go see it and it makes money. And then we'll keep getting these stupid movies until probably the day we die. So, of course, this gets a terrible. Of course it gets a terrible. And like I said previously, Jeff Wadlow, he has made 2 of the worst horror films in the past few years, because I absolutely hated Truth or Dare because it just made no sense. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It made sense. It was just stupid the way they did it. And then Fantasy Island, which was at times, I think, worse than Truth or Dare because it just made no sense. So he already had 2 strikes, and this is the third. This is the third strike. I'm done. So if he comes out with a 4th horror film, I am not going to go see it. I'm not going to watch it. I'm done. So, yeah, Imaginary. Yeah, I wish this movie was Imaginary because I want to forget I ever saw it. So, there you go. So, yeah, that's spoiler. So, I'm not letting go on this one. So, avoid this one at all costs, you know. Pretend it doesn't exist. Like, I don't know, an imaginary, like it's imaginary, you just forget it's there. To then it just fades away. It just fades away. So, yeah, take my advice. Avoid it.
We call them imaginary friends. You are always playing with your imaginary friend. When the connection is severed, the entity becomes enraged.
He says he's right behind you.
But it was just my imagination.
Can I hang out with your imaginary friend?
He's not imaginary. He's not your friend.